we're talking brisket, baby. We're talking big hunks of meat again. Not this hunk of meat. Oh, your feet are warm. Anyway, braised brisket is what it's on the episode for today. Now, you can cook brisket 1,000 different ways. This one is braised. We're using red wine, a little ground rosemary, a couple different types of salt, kosher and sea. We're using a little bit of coarse ground black pepper, a peppercorn combination of white, yellow, red, black peppercorns, a little seasoned salt. What's that there sauce? And a little fresh garlic. We're using a little California red. It's a little dry wine. You don't have to put wine in it if you don't have to. You can just substitute water or anything for that matter. A little Coca-Cola, a little orange juice. But on this episode, we're talking brisket, baby. Season the brisket now. So I usually use a little What's That There sauce. Liam Perrin's is the best. It's the oldest. I put a little bit on top, a little bit on the bottom. You got to season both sides of these hunks of meat. Do not be afraid to over season your beef or any size roast pork. You got to season your meat good. A little bit of ground rosemary. Now, if you don't have ground rosemary, you can use fresh or take a little bit more. Kosher salt. Make sure you season salt and pepper very good on a hunk of meat like this, okay? Since we're using three different kinds of salt: sea salt, kosher salt, and seasoned salt. Be generous. Like I said, you got to season both sides of the meat. This is coarse ground black pepper. Okay. Got a little bit of white pepper ground. Now I'm just putting a thin layer of each one on there, okay? And we're gonna put a little bit of raw chopped garlic on the bottom as well. So we're gonna rub that in, flip this bad boy over, and we're gonna go with What's That There sauce one more time, a little bit just to cover it up. And we're going back to salt, 3 salts: kosher, sea salt, and seasoned salt. Okay, now I'm just covering, giving them very generous. Coarse ground black pepper, a little bit. We're using 4 different types of pepper actually in this. So we got white, green, red, and black peppercorns. And I have a peppercorn melange that I'm gonna pound out here. A little bit of ground rosemary. Okay, and then back to the fresh garlic. Probably a tablespoon or 2 on each side with the fresh garlic. And all I'm doing is moving it around so it gets on top. Now, you could put slits in your beef and stuff whole garlic in there. I've done that. I like that flavor too. But with this flavor and this cooking method of braising, I am going to cook this low and slow. And then I'm going to pull it apart and barbecue it. Like I usually, you can smoke briskets. You can make beef pastrami out of briskets. This would be the flat and this would be the point. But for this cooking method, we are braising. These are crushed peppercorns, which I'm just putting on the top. Okay, and that's going to give us a great peppery flavor throughout. Once you got to this point here, I leave them open for about an hour at 350 to 400. Let it get a good crust on it, then to turn it down low and slow until it's fork tender. 3 to 4 hours depending on your oven. And later this afternoon, when they come out of the oven, Azalea is done with her nap and the chef's well rested. We'll be right back to you. So we've been cooking now this brisket about 275 degrees for 3 hours. We started off at high heat for about 15-20 minutes, about 400. Then we turn it down to 275 for 3 hours. It probably has another 2 to 3 hours to go, low and slow. You can see it's just basting in itself. The only thing I did add was a little bit of brown sugar to the top and a few bay leaves in with the red wine. So there we go. Still cooking. We'll get back to you in a couple more hours. Chef and the baby. Finishing up brisket on Chef and the Baby. So we had our brisket in the oven for about 3 hours at 275. I started it at high heat for 15-20 minutes, 350, 400. Get a crust on it, low and slow, 300, 275. And then for the last 2 hours, I cranked it up to 350 with aluminum foil over the top so it kind of steams. But as you can get a quick look in the brisket, the juices from the wine, and this is all gonna make a good sauce. And you can just literally see how juicy your brisket is. The juice is just pouring right out of it. So you do not want to cut this brisket when it is hot. This roast needs to sit for about 15 to 20 minutes before you slice it. And always slice it against the grain, or with the grain, not against the grain. Otherwise it'll be chewier. With the grain, slice it, and then leftovers with a hunk like this. This should feed a family of 4 at least 2 to 3 times. First night, roasted potatoes, your favorite veg. Second night, you can do brisket tacos, a nice pico de gallo fresh, or a nice salsa. You can make nice wraps with it, Philly cheesesteak sandwiches or wraps. Saute a little bit of peppers, onions. So a hunk of meat like this, if it looks intimidating, $60, $70 in the store, but everything's expensive right now. But if you could get 2, 3, maybe even 4 meals for a family of 4 out of a hunk of meat like this, and it doesn't have to necessarily be brisket. Brisket is an expensive cut of meat. You can get a top round or a sirloin roast. This is roughly a 7 to 8 pound roast. And you can roast it the same way, same ingredients with the red wine. If you want to smoke your brisket, there's thousands of different ways you can make it, but this braised peppercorn brisket is definitely one of the family favorites here. Azalea can't chew it yet. She ain't got no teeth. She ain't still on liquid diet, but pretty soon she'll be getting to taste all these flavors and tell me, Papa, I want to eat that. I want to eat that. From our family to yours, 2023, we're ringing in a new year with Chef and a Baby. Thanks for watching. Like us on Facebook and on Google. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.